The Securities and Exchange Commission launched a civil lawsuit aimed at Goldman Sachs last week. President Obama said his administration learned about it on television. Congressman Darrel Issa isn't so sure. The ranking member of the House Oversight Committee joins me now. Welcome, Congressman. What exactly is your claim about this S.E.C. action and the administration?
Well, there are some things we know for sure. One of them is that the New York Times knew before the public knew, which means there was a leak at the S.E.C. that ultimately could have created insider trading or a number of other events. But more importantly, this had political ramifications. It was issued on the eve of trying to move the financial reform bill through the Senate, very much probably by vilifying Goldman Sachs, helps push voters in the Senate that direction. And then beyond that, there are a number of other questions we have. We simply want answers to questions exactly the way the Securities and Exchange Commission would ask if there were, let's just say, a suspicion of insider trading at some company.
On the question of any trading, so your suggestion, it seems to me then, is somebody would have shorted Goldman Sachs stock in advance of the announcement because the stock went down 13% or so once it was announced. Is that the notion?
Well, that's a good example of something that the Securities and Exchange Commission itself investigates about companies if there's been an insider leak. Well, certainly there was clearly a leak that had to originate from the Securities and Exchange Commission at some point that caused the New York Times to know the story before you and I did. That's a good example. We have other questions. Why did they release it during the trading day? That's not their practice, and it's not a good practice to do. Why did they release it just as a scathing 151-page report on their failures was coming out from their own IG? We want answers to these questions. The American people don't trust government. It's my job not to trust government either.
And in this case, you've had the president now say the administration didn't know about it. And also at the S.E.C., they say there was no political influence or activity here. So you don't believe those claims, essentially.
Well, first of all, there are 5 commissioners, and they voted 3-2 about doing this. So there was a political decision. They were all political appointees. So to say that it's not political or potentially political doesn't pass the American people's sniff test. What we want to know is a sequence of events, emails, correspondence. We believe that you could well find political smoking guns, but more importantly, this was a bad practice, a poorly executed lawsuit without even getting into the merits of what seems to be a very questionable lawsuit. The way they did it was clearly wrong and against their normal practices.
So do you think you're going to get anywhere with this? Has there been any response other than these initial denials?
Well, the denials basically said the S.E.C. never does any wrong and is always professional. We just want answers to our questions, not a statement about how good an organization is. And it's very possible the president and Rahm Emanuel knew nothing about this. We're not claiming that. We're asking questions to find out who knew what when, because somebody knew what they shouldn't have known too soon.
Okay, and you also are looking into another who knew what when, in which the denials from the White House have not been as fast and as sweeping. And that's the question of Congressman S.E.C. and whether the White House offered him a job. What exactly are you looking after in that case?
Well, in this case, we have a Congressman, Joe S.E.C., a former 3-star admiral, who said unequivocally he was offered a high appointed job by the administration if he would get out of the race. Now, that's a crime on 2 fronts. One is that whole question of getting out of the race happens to be against the law. But as Arlen Specter, his own Democratic opponent, said, that it's a bribe, it's an offer of a bribe, and that's a felony. And as you know, Arlen's a former U.S. attorney. All we want is an answer of who said what to him, and we want it either from Congressman S.E.C. or from the White House, because it does appear as though something was said. As you know, the spokesperson, Robert Gibbs, said it wasn't problematic. Well, that's not for him to decide. We would like the facts, and we'll make our own decision, as would the public.
And this kind of thing, though, it seems like it's been going on in politics for a long time in both Republican and Democratic administrations. There's always a little effort to clear the field for favored candidates and that kind of thing. So what to the charge that you're essentially criminalizing politics in this case?
Well, first of all, the president or anyone in the White House could have said to Joe S.E.C., we're going to campaign long and hard for Arlen Specter, and it's going to hurt your political future. That would have been hard-nosed politics. It would have been fine. but to offer one of your taxpayer paid for jobs, essentially give him something he might not otherwise have gotten in return for getting out of a race, is both a bribe and a violation of the law, influencing the free elections. And remember, if you lose free elections, Republican or Democratic elections, you very quickly can become like the third world dictatorships, where everybody gets their job as the minister of X based on a predetermined plan and not based on the will of the people.
In this case, if the president came out and gave as categorical a denial as he gave yesterday on this question of the S.E.C., would that be enough if it was just a better statement from the White House?
If the president said, I didn't offer, and Rahm said, I didn't offer, and you went through everybody in the White House who didn't offer, then the only question would be, Robert Gibbs, who is it that said they did offer something, but it wasn't problematic? We kind of go down the list to find out who made that offer and why press spokesperson Gibbs doesn't think it's problematic. They're not denying the offer, they're making a judgment call on it. Well, you might remember Richard Nixon said if the president orders it, it's legal. I'm sorry, but that's not an opinion the American people are willing to take without knowing all the facts.
We always get back to Nixon in these conversations. So as a last question, Congressman, where do you think this is going to go on this question of SESTAC?
Well, when we get back to arrogance, we get back to Nixon for a reason. But the fact is that we can't let this lie. This is a felony, an accusation of a felony at least. And so either Joe Sestak is lying, in which case he has dishonored his office, or he's telling the truth, in which case a crime has occurred.
Okay, Congressman Issa, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure.